All right, Daniel, how much caffeine have you had today?
I'm about to have my second and final big cup of the day. I usually have two and a half, and so this is the final whole cup that I'm gonna have
All
today. And
right,
perfect timing. You?
nice. I'm one monster and one Newtonic deep. We might call it quits there. Maybe we'll throw a Coke Zero on top.
Coke Zero can feel good after, especially after a pod.
Agreed, agreed. Amazing. Well, we've got some great topics today. Let's highlight a few, just give people a preview of what they're gonna get.
Sure.
Um,
Wanna
so we
wanna
we've
start?
got yeah, so we've got a company that's kind of founder-led content first that just sold. I think that'd be really interesting to talk about. It's
Mm-hmm.
not TBPN, which other people have been talking about a lot.
Yep.
Um, we've got a couple of clear arbitrage opportunities, both
Mhm.
within like with AI and services and with social content. We've
Yep.
got a 75,000 person finance list that's doing 3
Mm.
million a year and some interesting things they're doing. I've got a really interesting tool I want to show you. Those are a few things. What about on your end?
I love it. I'm excited about the some of the ones that you have on here. Let's see. I have one that some people are calling this the new influencer marketing, and it's totally not what you're expecting. So I'm excited about that one. I also have a post-launch tactic that I think is pretty underrated. We just did this for a client, and I think a lot of people could actually go and implement this. And then finally, this is probably falls into the bucket of the arbitrage trends that we're gonna share, but I do think there is a new way of doing giveaways on X specifically, and I'm very excited to like get your kind of your take or your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's dive in. I guess before we do, I'll tell you. So I flew out to a wedding this last weekend in LA for a friend that I met through Twitter.
Hmm.
Funny enough, he had like a whole group of people there, including his best man who he'd met through Twitter. Um, and it was I knew a bunch of them as well just through the internet, but one of them is hilarious. I had so before I started my own ghostwriting agency, I was working with another ghostwriter, the only other one that I knew at the time. And he gave me like 4 or 5 clients that I was writing content for every week. Anyway, one of those clients was there. And so I'd written for him for like 4, 5, or 6 months. And like I'd gotten him great results. He had no idea that I was like writing his content. So I was brand new to him and like I knew everything about this guy. And so I actually like brought it up to him. I'm like, hey, by the way, when you were working with this guy, I was the one writing for you. And so it was just a hilarious moment where I met a client who had no idea I was working with him for like 6 months.
That's wild. I think it's also wild the fact that that all of those people were there just because of Twitter. Um, and I think for a while, especially at least this was the case for me, but like I started writing online on Twitter. At least that was the first platform where I started writing, and for a long time, and I think that's still the case. But like the networking, kind of the online networking of Twitter was kind of unparalleled. I haven't really seen any of that happen on other platforms, and maybe because again, Twitter was my platform, but great example of that you just experienced.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that was a fun thing. But getting getting into the topic. So um Carry.com just sold. He just announced it today for $70 million. This was a SaaS company.
Mm,
They basically help like solopreneurs or entrepreneurs who have just contractors. They don't have full-time employees.
yep.
Um, do the maximum amount. It's called a solo 401k, like where you can invest your dollars um, without paying taxes essentially on a bunch
Hmm.
of it. And I'm actually a customer, like a happy
Mm,
customer. The founder, his name is Ankur Nagpal, and
hmm.
he grew this thing by posting on Twitter, by posting on LinkedIn, running webinars, having a
Hmm.
bunch of lead magnets, all the
Hmm.
stuff that you and I are doing on a regular basis. That's how he grew the business. He just has a much better business model than you or I do, where he's getting customers and keeping them for a long, long time. He's also very experienced and knows what he's doing. But I just thought that was an amazing example of like these founder-led businesses that are absolutely crushing it.
Fascinating. Yeah, I'm familiar with it because I've talked to one of the guys who was, I think he was the main guy doing growth for them.
Yeah.
Awesome guy. Um, wasn't the founder also the founder, or at least the guy, one of the co-founders of Teachable, I think?
Yeah. Yeah. He
Yeah, so
founded
like
Teachable.
track record. So not surprised, but at the same time, pretty cool to see the acquisition. Do you know if it's an acquihire or like a just he just sold it and that's it?
He sold it like everybody says when they sell it, like, oh, there's the next stage of the
Yeah,
company. They want it to be better. And hopefully that's
fair.
true because I'm actually a customer, have a bunch of money with them. So
Fair, fair. But yeah, I think the other interesting thing, kind of, you kind of hinted at it, but as far as I remember, based on my conversations and kind of the research that I've done, they had another brand that was a basically a media company that they were using to acquire customers for Carry, and their whole goal was to have like a negative CAC, and so basically get customers for free. Do you know if that was part of the acquisition or anything there?
yeah, I think that was just all under Anker's personal brand that they were trying to
Mm,
like do that media company. And so like if he stays with them, then of course they'll get that. They'll get
yeah.
the email list that they built from the lead magnets and webinars and so on. Um, but obviously, like his personal brand wouldn't go with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm a little bit bitter because I Trojan horse offered him um, a while back, and it led to a conversation, and it didn't close, unfortunately. He said I was too expensive, and he just sold for 70 million. So
That's what it is. Yeah.
yeah,
So
it is what
sometimes
it is.
that's how it goes. Do you, it looks like you have kind of studied some of his stuff more closely. Are there any interesting, just to make it also actionable for ourselves and for folks, any interesting tactics or things that you think he's done a pretty good job of that we could replicate?
Yeah, so he's all about basically how to save as much money as possible as a business owner, using all the different strategies. When there's been new tax code stuff that comes out with the new like political administration in the United States,
Yeah.
he's been super on top of that, and he's kind of done like the breaking, like here's how this will work for you. He does an incredible job of simplifying that and
Mm,
making taxes interesting.
mm.
Whereas most, accountants that write about tax, it's like, you'd rather do who knows what than go read their content. So just an amazing job of making it interesting.
I love that. I have a saying, I don't like this is more of like education related because it goes back to when I was in school, but I have a saying or like a belief that I think there is no boring topic. I think there is just only boring teachers or communicators. And I think this is
Mhm.
also very true and like applicable to content. And so whenever I have, because I think actually the reason why this is top of mind is because over the past couple of years, ever since we started writing on LinkedIn, I've had a bunch of people reach out and be like, "Oh, dude, you're growing like crazy. What's the magic? What's the secret?" And then one of the common objections that I always get is, "Oh, well, my topic is boring. You write about marketing. Everyone wants to hear about marketing, but my topic is
Sure.
boring." And this is always kind of the thing that I like to remind people of. I genuinely think that there is no boring topic. There is just boring communicators. And so if you think your topic is boring, there's probably a packaging skill issue that you might want to work on.
Straight up. And if you're in the marketing space, guess who you're competing against?
I guess the best.
Marketers who are
Yes.
amazing at it. And so
Yes.
if you're in the tax space, like you have a massive opportunity and advantage to make it interesting.
Yeah. I love that. Can I share I think this, since we're kind of talking about Twitter, maybe I can share the viral giveaway strategy that I noticed a few days
Please.
ago. So, um, and maybe the next topic can be arbitrages since this is kind of one of those. But we've been going back and forth this past week about like potential arbitrages, right? Like we're always looking for those opportunities to like capitalize on whatever's working on a given platform and accelerate our results. And I think we shared this last episode, but I'm back on X right now. I'm consuming more content and also posting content on X again. And my feed lately has been three things. First, the overarching topic is AI for sure, but there is two types of posts about AI or like in the AI niche that are coming over and over again on my feed. And one of them is articles. So X articles are very popular, or at least they seem to be based on what I'm consuming or seeing. And then the other one, which is pretty interesting, is quote retweets. And I've been seeing a combination of the two where I see people post an article, it goes viral, and then they do a quote retweet of the article, sharing more stuff around the same topic, and it also goes viral. And so I
Yes.
just find it very mind blowing. It feels like inception of like articles and then quote retweets. Now, all of that was necessary context for this strategy to make sense. So the strategy is very simple. I recently saw a guy doing a quote retweet. The quote retweet went viral, but what was interesting was that the quote retweet wasn't just a take of him like sharing an opinion on what he was kind of quote retweeting. The quote retweet was a giveaway post where he was encouraging people to comment to get an asset that he created, that it was actually a genuinely valuable and useful thing. Um, but the interest, instead of like making a standalone post for the giveaway, he used the quote retweet mechanics or mechanic, uh, and it seemed to have worked pretty well. I don't know.
Yeah. Just to get even more specific. So that one, a guy basically said 99% of Ramp uses AI daily. And he
Mm,
said, we built something internally to help all of our employees crush it with AI. And
mm,
he linked to an article.
mm.
So he was quote retweeting an article, this guy. And then
Yep.
the tweet that you're referring to, quote retweeted this guy. And he said, I went and looked at this and
Mm,
broke down everything they did. I just rebuilt it, but for agencies specifically, a
yep.
comma XYZ, and I'll send it to you. And so they used the same resource that someone else had already, they piggybacked on that someone
Yep.
else's lead magnet and adjusted it for their audience, which, yeah, I thought that was fascinating.
So, okay, so because that's what I was talking about. It's Inception. So the original piece of
Yes.
content was an article. Then
Yes.
someone did a quote retweet on that article, and then this guy who did the giveaway did a quote retweet on the quote retweet. But his tweet was based on all this context. I put this together. Do you want it? And then it worked.
People are going to be so lost like listening to this. It probably helps to see it.
Yeah.
I'll jump in with some of these other arbitrage opportunities. So you
Cool.
mentioned on X quote retweets and basically long form content about AI. I've seen it
Mm,
work both as like a long form piece and as articles,
mm.
but articles are certainly the meta right now.
Yep.
Another thing that seems to be very clear arbitrage within social content is these long educational YouTube videos. I don't mean 40 minutes long. I mean 4 hours, 6 hours long.
Yep.
Usually a free course on, whatever it may be. Like tying this into Twitter, I recently saw a quote, or sorry, a quote retweet of an article that was talking about AI with a 4 hour, like somebody grabbed a 4 hour long form video course from YouTube and published it on X as a quote retweet to that article. And it had one person had like 4.5 million views on it, and another person quote retweeted it and it had like 2.3 million views. And so that's like another layer of inception. So like you're using the quote retweets and you're using those long YouTube videos, but
Mm.
outside of just X, like we see these working really, really well on YouTube.
Yep.
And if we kind of dig just one layer deeper, I think what we could see with these long form pieces about AI and these long form YouTube videos is there's kind of proof of effort there,
Hmm.
where AI is like making everything so much easier and the barrier to entry is low. There's like somebody put a lot of effort in if they're creating a long form article about how they used AI with screenshots and blah blah blah. Same with these YouTube videos, which I think is really interesting.
I think that's a great observation. I think specifically, I don't know. I guess this might be true for some topics with the long form, like free YouTube courses. But I think the other interesting thing with AI though is that there seems to be, and I think to an extent it's also true, where like there's almost like a lot of insider knowledge because of how fast the space is moving and how the tools are changing and how new upgrades come out all the time. And so I feel like the meta framework there is like whenever there is like fast innovation in a space, that usually requires someone to be on the cutting edge, and whoever is on the cutting edge, you can kind of outsource what you're learning and essentially teach in open source what you're learning for the person who's like two steps behind you. And there seems to, a lot of, because everyone has heard about Claude, but 99% of people don't know how to get started with Claude, or they don't know how to start using Claude Cowork or all these new features. And so I feel like that on top of the perceived effort variable that you pointed out, I think this is also another potential component there.
Yeah, and I guess an interesting observation is if if you did like carousels on LinkedIn back in 2022, you would go
Mm,
viral, period.
yep.
If you did Twitter threads back in 2020, 2021, you'd go viral, period.
Yep.
And those like slightly higher perceived effort, like it takes more effort to write a thread than a tweet. It takes more effort to create and design a carousel than it
True.
does a regular post or an infographic. For a
Hmm.
long time, those were like the barrier to entry was higher on those posts, and so they did better. I think right now, like these long form pieces and on YouTube and or articles are like the higher barrier to entry example.
I think that's a great observation too. And quick fun side note, I think carousels on Substack might be one of those next things that are getting starting to get traction. I've seen some people like go pretty viral with like
Mhm.
some yeah, basically like a LinkedIn carousel but on Substack, and they look pretty neat. And I think they've been improving the feed UX where now it feels more like native and easier to consume.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been on Substack as much. That's interesting.
Yeah. Is
Um,
that all the arbitrages? Do we have any more there?
maybe I'll share one other thought here, which is um, just like another. It's related. So if you look at the vast majority of big creators, people with 50, 100, 200,000 followers, especially on X and LinkedIn, but this includes any social platform. I've seen that they capitalize on at least one of these three opportunities. One,
Hmm.
they're at the forefront of a new growing category.
Yep.
Two, they dominate a category on a new growing platform.
Hmm.
Or three, they find a big supply demand mismatch with the creators versus consumers and
Yep.
go super hard while that arbitrage exists.
Yep.
And so that's just a kind of a framework that I was thinking about this last week,
Mm.
where can you think, is there a new platform where I can go in and dominate a category that's already mature on these other platforms, but it's new here? So, like
Yep.
if you jumped on Substack, could you dominate that category?
Yep.
Or can I can I kind of create a new category on a old like arcane platform?
Hmm.
Or is there a big supply demand mismatch? And I think that's a great framework to look through, like where the opportunities are with content.
I love that framework. And I mean, ideally, you want to hit all three. I think you could theoretically hit all three, and that's where the explosive growth comes or happens. I mean, just because we're on the topic, the other interesting note there is that, like, let's take the example of AI as a new category. A lot of people would say or take that and go, well, I don't want to, I have my business that's completely unrelated to AI. Like, how can I tap into that category? Well, you can somehow find ways to kind of attach your own topic or niche to other categories that are more trendy or more hot, and get a lot of the benefit as well. Like, there's a lot of people who are not directly talking about AI, but they're talking about how to use AI for blank, accounting, email marketing, whatever. And then that also unlocks some of that kind of benefit that you were talking about.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's as easy as just putting AI in front of your category. Like you do
Yep.
email marketing and you
Hmm.
create a paid newsletter, AI email marketing, right?
Yep.
And like it's basically to help people DIY their own email marketing. And
Yep.
it's very tangential to what you're doing.
Yep.
By the way, the thing that sparked this was I was listening to the Megasode that Eric Jorgensen did with Naval. Is like a 5 year recap on the book that he wrote,
Yep.
and Naval was saying like that his opinions and takes and stuff like aren't that unique. He's like, there's other people that actually say the same stuff that I do, and sometimes are even more eloquent or better. It just so happened to be that I was tweeting it at a time when nobody else was, and so he like dominated that space, and he's known as what he's known as today because of that.
Mhm.
Not because he, like in his words, not because he's that unique or his ideas are that unique, but because nobody owned that category really, and he took advantage of it.
Distribution scheme, baby.
Yeah. And you could point to a million people. You could point to Nick Huber on Twitter, same thing,
Mm.
self-storage. Like he blew
Yep.
up with that. And now if somebody tries, like it's not going to happen, at least not in the same way, even if
Yep.
they're more credible than he is.
Big lesson there. Start creating content if you are not already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, let's see which one because I have a couple. Well, I think we're talking about content, so I think the perfect segue here would be this next idea. So the way I framed it at the beginning was a lot of people, or not a lot of people yet, but like some people are calling this the new influencer marketing. And what it is um using your existing employees as a marketing engine. And I think we've actually seen and been talking about this for a while now, with companies like Beehive, HubSpot, where sometimes it's just the C-suite, but like I think there's also some interesting examples of companies who've built like a very like bottom-up culture where it's not even the C-suite alone. It's like a good chunk of the team is like actively creating content, building in public, and documenting what they're doing. And as a result, uh well they get a bunch of free leads because their staff and their team members are creating content on behalf of the company, and that accelerates the entire flywheel. um Now these like the piece that I'm referencing, or the take that I'm referencing, is from I haven't read the whole piece today, but I think my understanding is this person is I don't know their title, but they work for a big company, and
Mhm.
they just publish this piece, basically sharing and explaining how they've been able to essentially leverage this strategy to get a bunch of leads and revenue for the company, and how it's kind of starting to become like something more and more common. Um,
Yeah.
so it's very interesting. The last thing that I'll say there is I also recently saw someone who did like a internal challenge with like
Yeah.
incentives and
I saw
prizes.
that.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I feel like, and I think you've also been tinkering with this idea for a little bit. So I'm curious to hear your take, but I just think it's something, if you have a team, obviously not everyone has a team, but if you have a team, a very interesting strategy to like, amplify your marketing, you know?
Yeah, I think that challenge that we both saw, it basically said, all right, first place winner gets I don't remember if it was like 3 grand, second
Yep.
place winner gets this much, third place winner gets this much. And he had a couple of rules like you have to include posts to the company or links to the company. You get points by how many posts you do. He wanted to incentivize that, total impressions, and then total leads or something like that. And he it was a pretty significant number that he
Mhm.
shared of like how much they'd grown. I also have a client who basically became bullish on LinkedIn as we were working together, and took his team for an offsite and focused the offsite on getting his team to start publishing on LinkedIn. My advice here, by the way, if you want to do this with your team, is don't force people to do it if they're not down. But for those who are excited, like absolutely have them lean into it. And the numbers were like spectacular. I think he's done two update posts on it. I think that they've added $1 million in ARR from their team posting regularly.
That's wild. And I mean, the meta opportunity, if you are a marketer here too, is like how to somehow offer that as a service, or like build tools and resources and info products, and basically build businesses around this idea, especially if it's, getting more and more traction, and becoming more and more popular.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. Also very tangential to what I do, so it makes me curious
Yeah, I know,
what I
I
could
know,
try there.
I know it's been top of mind. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a huge team right now. I mean, I'm not planning on having one, but otherwise, I think this would definitely be something that I would try and incorporate.
Yeah. You're going the AI first agency, minimal employees.
That's what we are gonna try. Yeah, try to keep
Yeah.
it lean.
Yes. Likewise. Likewise. Amazing. Do you want to hear about the 75,000 person finance list?
Hit me. Yeah, that one
All
sounds
right.
fascinating.
So I'd followed this guy. I'd actually had some conversations with him and stuff. Super cool guy, but I didn't realize that he'd gone. So he went full time.
Mm,
He was doing it part time when I was chatting with him. He went full time with his basically media company. He's a CFO and created a newsletter for other CFOs, head of finance type people. And there's a podcast and he's done a long form breakdown as well. But he's doing $3 million a year, and he just went full time about a year ago. So
wow.
he's a year in. First year did 3 million in revenue. This, by the way, is total. It's public information. It's mostly metrics. The guy's name is CJ Gustafsson,
Mm,
and it's just fascinating. I did a little bit of a deep dive this morning.
mm,
He started a podcast. He has, I believe, two podcasts. One is with himself, and then the other is with a friend. He's got the newsletter, which is the main thing, and he's figured out a lot of ways to monetize. So he's got his
mm,
sponsors. He's going long term, fewer sponsors, premium sponsors.
mm,
And then he's doing, I thought this was really interesting because we talked about it a few weeks ago. He's basically turning his newsletter into a job board, really he's trying to be the recruiter,
mm.
where he will help place finance talent in companies because he's got both people on his list. And so he's just getting, so he gets the finance talent to basically apply and say that they're interested in looking for jobs. And he can pre-qualify and pre-vet them that way. And then he'll connect with the companies and he'll say, hey, if you have any jobs that you want to fill in the finance side, I've got this,
That's cool.
10,000, I have 75,000 person list and I've got 5,000 people who are interested in exploring new jobs. Like I'll put it in front of them. And I don't know if you know this, but the way that these recruiters charge is really interesting. So you could do a contingency based fee, which is 15 to 30% of first year salary. So you place a $200,000 role, you might make 60K on that. Um, you could do a flat fee, 5K to 25K. Sounds like it's pretty standard.
Hmm.
Or you could do a sponsored job, which is a company just pays you like 3K to post it. And then if it goes through, they pay you an additional 10K or 15K or something. And of course, you want to be able to vet it and like you'd probably collect the applications on your own and pass them along and have them sign a contract so that they don't just steal the candidate and not pay you anything. But I just thought this was a perfect example of you build both sides of the marketplace
Yep.
and you play the middleman and can make like some pretty serious revenue with it.
It's almost like media-based it's like a media-based marketplace essentially, where you own the audience, you own the both sides, and then you're the middleman in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's awesome.
exactly.
Did you know
I
how
mean,
he's
with
Go ahead,
go
sorry.
ahead.
Finish the thought.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, if we take the same idea and apply it to our lists, we probably have a lot of marketers on our list. And so, what if we did the same thing and we said head of marketers,
Hmm.
head of marketing, or fractional CMOs or CMOs, like who's interested in a job, and then taking the other side because we have a bunch of companies and say, are you looking to hire marketing talent? Like, I bet you and I could make this happen as well.
I agree. And I mean, if we do start the marketing ideas newsletter, that would be even more congruent and more on brand there. So, future facing there. But hey, I do think it's interesting. Random side note on that. I recently found a newsletter like that on Substack where their entire value prop is like they share uh, either freelance opportunities or like job opportunities for writers specifically.
Mm,
And I found them because I was scrolling through you know how Substack has like a leaderboard, like top publications and also like up and coming publications. And so I was
mm.
scrolling through, and these people were like number 25 on the bestsellers for education. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And then I went down the rabbit hole a little bit. And the whole premise is it's a paid newsletter. So instead of, I think they're probably monetizing the least lucrative way because
Mm.
they're just charging people who want access to the opportunities, as you know,
Yeah.
because it's a paid newsletter, and then they share the opportunities they curate with you if you're a paid user. But it sounds like this model might be more interesting.
Yeah. Do you know, out of curiosity, did you look at like how many subscribers they have so we could do some back of the napkin math?
I think it was like 20,000, but I don't think Substack shows you like the number
Paid.
of paid users. I think it's just the total. Let me see if I can.
5% is pretty, it's usually between 1 and 5%, right?
Yeah.
Um, if we said 5%, so on the upper end, a little generous, it'd be $1,000 or sorry, 1,000 people. And then did you see what they charge?
Okay, so I have it here. So it's 32,000 subscribers that they have, and I can try and subscribe, and they charge $20 per month.
Okay. Times 20. So, okay, they're probably doing somewhere between 15 to 32,000 or so per month,
Still
which
not
is,
bad.
yeah, it's not bad
Yeah,
at all for a paid
especially
newsletter.
because I think what's interesting about these newsletters too is that it's very automatable with AI, right? Like, I don't see like on paper, I think you could completely do all of the curation and even the drafting of the newsletter with AI, and you just QC it at the end, and that's the business. That's the deliverable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I'd be fascinated to see if, yeah, if they tried a different model as well, what that would
Mm,
look like.
yeah,
There's just so many writers that are looking for opportunities all the time. I think it's a great idea.
yeah, I agree. Um, I have one more idea. Should we wrap it up with that one?
Yeah, I've got a quick tool of the week that I'll share as well
Oh,
afterwards.
okay. I like the news section. Okay, I like it.
We
Okay,
just
so
add whatever of the week, and it's a new section.
yeah. Okay, so my idea, basically, whenever you do an email launch, um, I think what most people do, what we used to do at some point as well, was we would just wrap up the launch, maybe do a downsell. We actually talked about the downsell strategy a few episodes ago, and then call it a day. You just move on, keep sending your newsletters, and kind of go back to what you were doing before the launch started. Now, that's fine and all. I think there is an opportunity though for you to learn and make your next launch even better. And that's where this tactic comes in. And the whole idea is how can you find a high leverage segment of people who were on the fence about joining but didn't pull the trigger, so you can gather some data and insights from them, and then based on those learnings you can then refine everything else you do in the future, right? And so the way it usually works is we again execute our launch, we wrap it up, but then once the launch is over we find a segment of clickers, basically people who click on our sales page but they didn't buy. We separate those people, we write an email. I call it the why didn't you buy email. Very simple email, self-explanatory. It's essentially saying, hey, notice you were on the fence about the product, but you didn't pull the trigger. Mind hitting reply and letting me know what happened, just so we can learn. And you would be surprised how many people are actually willing to share their thoughts if you actually ask them for it.
Mm.
And so we write the email, we then send it to these folks. A good chunk of them reply, and then by the way, I don't think you need like a gigantic list to make this work. Like even if you get like 5 responses, like the responses might be very insightful, right? And so what we do then is we compile all of those responses into a document. Now with AI, you can analyze it, and then based on the analysis
Huh.
that you do with AI, you can do, or you can then improve your emails. Like the next time you launch the same product, you can
Mhm.
take all of those insights in consideration, and then you can do the exact same thing with your sales page and any like they offer like all the different components in the
Update
launch.
the FAQ,
Yes,
update the headline, maybe.
exactly. And so and it's again very simple, not rocket science, but I do think it's very underrated, and I don't think a lot of people do this. And again, even sometimes we skip it altogether. But I do think there is some alpha there to be like
Mm.
extracted.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. And so that's for products that you launch, and then I guess it could be evergreen as well. Like that
Yeah.
could be if you have somebody that doesn't, maybe you have your little window and you have a countdown timer or whatever,
Hmm.
that's individualized.
Correct.
You could still do it then. But this would work exceptionally well for something like a cohort-based course.
Yeah. I do think, yeah, I mean, because if you have something evergreen, you probably have some kind of evergreen way to sell it. And so you could still incorporate the technique at the end, right? Because you know who goes through the evergreen funnel, who has clicked, who has gone through the evergreen funnel and also taken some kind of like action that shows intent and then separate them based on that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. Another thing that I know you guys are doing at PGA that I thought was interesting is right now you are launching a an old product, but I think you're about to launch an old product that you guys created. But correct me if I'm wrong. Are you launching it as a cohort?
Basically, so it's called Low Ticket Launchpad. It's a self-paced product that we launched like two years ago or maybe last year. And so what we're doing now is we've with AI and all the new stuff that's come out, we have kind of revamped the curriculum a little bit, and we are relaunching the same offer as a 2 week live bootcamp. And
Mm.
so yeah, basically
So
whether
that's what I was going to say is I think that's super interesting is taking a low ticket digital product you've created and turn it into a basically a cohort based course.
especially if it's proven. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be very curious to hear how that goes.
Yeah, we'll debrief on it next episode. But okay, you have the
The
tool of the
tool of the
week.
week. Yeah, so um, you and I both started writing on Substack and we both stopped.
Yep,
Um, the reason I stopped was because one, like, wasn't getting that much traction. It was okay, not great. But two, we had to manually post everything. Like, they didn't
yep,
have a scheduling tool. There's no software that exists.
yep.
There is a software that exists now.
Yes, I
Um,
know. Painfully.
So
Yeah.
yes, it's called WriteStack. It's still a little bit annoying. Like you have to have your browser open,
Mhm.
but I just have my assistant who pulls it up on a browser and stays logged into my account, and you can schedule it just like like a Hype Fury or a Taplio. And I'm already publishing a bunch on X, and so I started posting again on Substack, and I'm actually like I'm getting some new subscribers and stuff. So yeah, wanted to share that. Sounds like
Let's
you're
go.
already aware of some tools.
I used it actually. Well, the guy is a super cool guy. I think he's making six figures already with the tools, which is
Cool.
awesome. Um, I sign up and I found that
What's
whole
his background color?
orange. I
Orange,
think.
yes. That's how Daniel identifies people.
Yeah. Um, and I found that whole like what you just explained of you having to keep your laptop open. I found that super annoying, and I just churned because I didn't like that. Like
Yeah.
I was, although I might just post it manually to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think they might have changed because Substack now has publishing. Like they have like a native publishing or scheduling feature, and so maybe it's
Oh,
fixed.
did they build
Yeah,
that in?
yeah.
Well, I'm about to churn from the tool I just promoted.
Well, maybe the capability of right stack got better because of that new feature, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I will I'm gonna take a look at that.
Cool.
Good
Well,
stuff.
yeah, that was a juicy episode. I love it.
That was. That was
Yeah.
fun. As far as next time, so we don't have a ton of our ideas that we could list, but
Yeah.
I have one idea I'd love to run by you, which is kind of it's a little bit of a strategic thing with social content, which is playing to win versus playing to play.
Mm,
That I'd love to run by you. And then we have a million things that we send back and forth in our text messages, so we're
yeah.
definitely gonna have some fun stuff to talk through.
Agreed. Yeah. And I'll have a big live update by the time the next episode goes live. So we might do a little tangent there and dig into that as well.
Yeah, you wanna save it for then, or you wanna say anything right
Yeah,
now?
I think that
All right,
let's
we'll
save it
save it.
just to get people curious.
Good stuff. All right, sounds
Cool.
good, man.